Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a Tuesday night live stream, That Damn Baseball Show with WardyNYM, with Blue Jays Today. Welcome in to the boys. Let's start with our guest. Tyler, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm happy to be on. I know that we've been trying this for a little bit. My podcast usually is around the same time as your guys's, so it just hasn't worked out. But today it has, so I'm happy to be here. You know, both of you guys do great content in your own right, not only for the Blue Jays, but baseball as a whole. So I'm just happy to get into the discussion. Haven't done an overall baseball talk like this in a while, so I'm pretty pumped up for it.
Well, we are going to chop it up. We are going to chop it up like we normally do on a Tuesday. We are happy to have you on board. Nick and Adam, how you guys doing?
Doing good, Jim. I was actually doing pretty fine, but then, you know, the Blue Jays just had to do Matt Gage absolutely dirty. DFA, I don't want to derail the whole conversation we're about to have tonight because it's going to be awesome talking about some future award predictions, but just rest in peace to the career of Matt Gage. Hopefully no one picks him up because I'm just pissed. But anyways, other than that, I'm doing great, Jim.
Yeah, he might make it through. Miguel Andujar made it through some of the more notable DFAs. Like Miguel Andujar made it through the Pirates DFA, so he remained with the organization. So It can happen. Don't lose hope. He might hang tight. Adam, Nick, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. We were literally, just for all those viewers out there, we were chatting, and all of us around the same time started our channels, and even though we're all kind of buds, off of the YouTube grind, our teams, man, Blue Jays, Mets, we've been going at it. We've been back and forth with all of those free agents, and I mean, I feel like the hype train is kind of at the highest point for both of our squads right now. So I'm really excited to talk all like MVP awards, everything like that, because I know that we're going to have some Blue Jays players. I know that we're going to have some Mets players. I am stoked, Jimmy.
Me too. This is going to be fun. And we are going to be getting into the 2023 futures. We're going to take a look at some way too early predictions because we've got over-unders. The Caesar Sportsbook has put out over-unders on wins, odds for MVPs, Rookie of the Year, division winners, Cy Youngs, all of that. And I think there are some interesting topics to cover. So we're going to kind of run through some of the more notable ones. And we encourage everybody to comment live, those that are with us live or those that are watching the replay. Be sure to comment below and give us your takes on it. Again, we are live on both Blue Jays Today and BALLCAP Sports. So if you're on one, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, then hop over to the other one, comment, like, subscribe, and definitely, if you haven't yet, let's get Tyler subbed up. Anybody that's not subbed to WardyNYM,
thank you, Jim.
When the stream is done, when the video's done, you hit him up. Anytime, my guy. Let's do this thing. Let's start. Let's go. I don't know. Do we want to go big or do we want to start? Let's do this. Let's start with National League East championship odds because it's tight. We've got Braves as the favorite, plus 140, and the Mets are right behind them, plus 145, and then there are the Phillies at plus 280. So let's get a prediction. Tyler, you go first. You have the honors. Who's winning the National League East?
Man, I don't know. I really don't know. If we want to just say how we normally expect it and then see if something changes, you want to say the Braves. However, I think the Phillies are getting criminally slept on because they just went to the World Series.
Right.
And the schedule that they're going to have now next season is going to be in their favor. And the reason why is with them going to be out west and facing a lot of teams in the AL, like every team has to face each other, it seems like at least once now, right? So the divisional games aren't going to be as prominent. And that's going to be big for a Phillies team because they only played the Mets. They only won 4 games out of 19 against the Mets last year. So the Mets never had an issue with them. But now that's going to be limited now, even without them having Harper for however long it's going to be. They upgraded their pitching significantly, and they brought in Trey Turner, the best shortstop in baseball, in my opinion. So, I think Phillies are getting slept on way too much because even with Harper being out for a bit, they replaced him with a equal as good bat and productive player overall in Turner. So Yeah, I don't know. I almost want to say it's a coin flip. Braves makes a lot of sense, but my only concern with Atlanta is after losing Swanson, yes, they have Ozzy Albies, but Vaughn Grissom defensively, he needs to make major strides there at short. And Albies, while I think he'll be able to get back in the groove of things fine, so it won't hurt them too much with Swanson. I don't know. I really think it's a toss up, and I don't want to be biased. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and shock some people and say the Phillies, because the Phillies shocked us all by going to the World Series. So I think they'll be number one, and then Mets, Braves, take your pick for number two. I think 1 through 3, they're going to be no more or less than between like 4 games apart each. I think it's going to be very tight.
You know, we go to you for that one first, because you literally live, eat, sleep, breathe National League East content and everything along those lines. Being a Mets content creator, you know even more about the competition than we would. Covering all of baseball or focusing more on the Blue Jays or the American League East. So that's interesting. I do, with the odds, with the Phillies being the plus 280, if you were betting, it wouldn't be a bad idea to throw maybe, an extra dollar.
I would hammer that.
Phillies. Yeah, because that plus 280,
would.
yep, plus 280, you could say there's a little bit of a sleep going on there. Braves and Mets, it's not. Those all 3 of these teams are just going to beat each other up.
Well, I love throughout this entire conversation, not a single one of us has said the Marlins or the Nationals.
Nah.
It's like literally like no one's even made mention. This is a 3 team division. There are no 2 other teams here, man.
It's not even worth throwing $5 down on the Marlins. It's not even worth that. That would be worse.
Yeah, plus 20,000 is quite the return, but I don't think it's worth it.
Right, it'd be a nice return, but is it going to happen?
I think honestly, the better question here is, out of those 3 teams that you're talking about, is there any possibility that one of them or more than one of them don't make playoffs? Because I think all of us are just kind of automatically assuming that like every single one of those 3 teams is a playoff, maybe even World Series contender. Is there one of those teams that has enough red flags that they could, a few things go wrong, they don't make it?
I hate to say it. I think the National League is going to run like it did last year, because you have all of the teams that make the playoffs. You have 6 teams that make the postseason. I think you'll have the Braves, Mets, Phillies, Giants, Dodgers, Padres, and Cardinals or Brewers. You'll get 1 team from the Central, 3 from the East, and 2 from the West. I think it's going to run the same way. Any reason for it not to?
Yeah, the only reason would be just a colossal amount of injuries. That's the only way. Really.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Like, God forbid, if Harper, who was only expected to be out a certain amount of time, he's out like the majority of the year, and like say Turner doesn't adjust the way that you expect. Like, there would have to be a lot of dominoes to fall not in their favor for that to happen. Same thing with the Mets. Mets have endless potential. A lot of people deem them as already a World Series favorite. And while I agree to an extent, they also need to make sure that their rotation stays healthy. They need Kodai Senga to produce at an MLB caliber level his first year out. Like, there's a lot of things that still need to go right, even with these guys having great past track records. Still a lot of question marks.
Yeah.
Let's kick another future over to Nick and Adam, the AL East. Yankees are the favorite to win the East at plus 115. The Blue Jays are at plus 190. And then the Rays are at plus 400. How you feeling about the Yankees being the favorite? Not overwhelming. I mean, plus 115, plus 190. It's close. Mm-hmm. But how you feeling about that? Do you think the Blue Jays is it right where it should be? Or the Blue Jays get a little bit disrespected? Should it maybe be even a little tighter?
Yeah, I actually do think this is pretty accurate. I do think the Yankees should have this division. Again, like we said about injuries, the only way the Yankees get derailed is if their rotation gets injured, because their rotation, my God, it could be the best in baseball for sure, undoubtedly. Like, that's going to run the AL East. When I go into a series and I'm facing Cortez and I'm facing, Cole, and I'm also getting, oh my gosh, one more pitcher. Thank you, Rodon. That's suicide.
Nestor,
like, it's just disgusting.
Take your pick. It's
then I'm coming in with Barrios, Kikuchi, and yeah, I'll get Manoah one time, but like, that's just not good enough. They should have the AL East, no problem. But again, if there's injuries or some underperformances that are happening, and we don't know, maybe that lineup just isn't as sexy as it was in the past. Maybe if everything hits with the Blue Jays, maybe we got a shot. But it should be the Yankees division.
Yeah, just from a rotational standpoint, they're definitely better than all the rest. I do think I'm probably still gonna bet on the Jays just anyways, because I do see a actual reality where it can happen. Like I think that even if the Yankees don't have injuries, I still do think that there is a reality where the Blue Jays can win this thing out and just play better than them. I would put more money on the Yankees to get that done more times out than not. But I still think that the Blue Jays definitely have a shot. Honestly, something like the most notable thing for me out of here, and like again, I you're gonna lose money on this, probably 10 times out of 10. But those Orioles are sneaky, boys. That's all I'm saying. Those Orioles are sneaky.
You're right.
Throwing it out there.
I'll say this: if we're looking for like if you're putting money down, the Rays at plus 400. The Rays could win this division. The Rays.
No, they can't. No. They're not gonna.
I know a lot of people.
That's exactly what the Rays. Good. That's what they want you to say.
What good could happen from sleeping on the Rays?
That's
all I have to say.
We've done it before. We've been down this road. I've seen this movie. The Rays end up winning the division with 95 wins because the Yankees lose Cole and the Blue Jays lose Manoah and Vladdy misses 3 months. And then all of a sudden the Rays win it with 95.
I think it's a good bet. Like, I think it's smart putting plus 400 down on the Rays, but don't do it because the Rays are finished in the AL East. Okay. They're nothing. They're nothing. They were injured basically the entire season last year, but let's all forget about that fact.
You're tempting fate. You are tempting fate. I can't believe this.
Put on our goggles. We're going to put on our shades, and we're going to look ahead. It's Blue Jays, Yankees, baby. No one else.
Let's do this. Let's get to – I do not want you guys to get sort of back-ended into a World Series prediction here, but let's talk about – because we talked about the NL East winners, the AL East winners. Certainly, you win that division, you're going to be in the conversation. Let's talk about some World Series winners. And then Nick and Adam, you guys, if there's anything you've seen on the futures – feel free to fire it off. But let's touch on World Series winners. Astros plus 500. They're the favorites, followed by the Yankees at plus 750. The Mets and the Dodgers are both at plus 800. Padres and Braves at plus 1,000. And the Blue Jays at plus 1,500. Very interesting that the Mets are plus 800 for the World Series and the Braves are plus 1,000. However, the same sports book has the Braves winning the division very narrowly. Thoughts on the World Series? Thoughts on the World Series? Let's go back to Tyler. I'll give my thoughts after you guys give yours. World Series winners, the way that sort of shapes up, is there somebody that kind of jumps out to you as slept on or undervalued, or does it seem like it's right on? Are the Astros going to be the favorite as we go to win this thing? No ifs, ands, or buts.
I think right now, and also apologies if I lag. I just noticed my camera's been lagging a little bit. Not too sure why, but I think right now the Astros are still definitely the favorites. I mean, even after losing Verlander, I still love their pitching depth. And to bring in a bat like Jose Abreu just nonchalantly to add to that already loaded offense, I think it's a very fair argument to say that the Astros are still the team to beat. Even if they didn't win the World Series this year, I would still argue because I trust the Astros' depth and experience far more than I do if the Phillies win, I would still be saying right now that the Astros are the team to beat. I feel so strongly about them, and they have yet to prove to me otherwise. I predicted that they were going to win it all last year back in June, and that held true. So I'm going to throw that out there now. I still think they're the favorites.
Guys, Nick and Adam?
Yeah, I'll just comment on what Wardy just said. I think plus 500. I usually don't pick the heavy favorites, but plus 500 for the Astros win a World Series. I mean, they're gonna be competing in the ALCS. You know what I mean? Like that's the top four. So already right there, if you do the math, that's already pretty good odds. You know what I mean? So if you're gonna tell yourself, okay, they're gonna be back there again this year, which I think they will. They're just the best team in baseball by far. They're literally like the Kansas City Chiefs of football. You know what I mean? They're so dominant. So I like the odds. And now just looking for something to add on to that. I love the Blue Jays, but plus 1,500. You got the Mariners plus 1,700. we haven't won a single playoff game in the last 3 years. I don't. Again, it's the overhype again. Blue Jays get a lot of overhype. I'll be the first one to say it. I would not be taking the plus 1,500 for the Blue Jays. No.
I'm with you guys. I think it's the Astros, and if I could get the Astros a plus 500, that feels pretty good because they do seem like the team. I mean, we're looking at this in the World Series winner. The favorite is the Astros. Right behind them is the Yankees, and then the next 4 or 5 teams, it's all National League teams. So we're looking where we kind of know what the ALCS is going to be, and now there's some different players involved on the Yankee side, with Carlos Rodon in the fold as well. And that will be a big difference when we get to ALCS time. But it's definitely between those two. And the Astros have just proved that they're better. And the Yankees, with Carlos Rodon, is that enough to put them over the top? If it's not, they'll probably make a trade before the deadline. But we have to definitely lean Astros there. And your take about the Blue Jays getting some love at 1,500, I think it's just one of those things where they're going to be the sexy pick like they were last year. They just keep ending up being.
You were number 2 last year. How did that make any sense? Like, we made no sense. Out, boys. Zoom out. How does that make sense?
Yep, nothing. Made no sense. Nick and Adam, is there anything, whether it's over under on the wins, the MVP, Cy Young's, Rookie of the Years, anything that sort of jumped out to you that you thought was interesting that
I wanted to talk about actually the AL MVP race. I looked at this earlier, man, and this is kind of nuts. And like, I understand it, I get it, it makes sense to me, but it is still just absolutely ridiculous that in an MVP race where there is, an endless crop of people who could potentially win this freaking award, there is literally a player at plus 200.
Right.
Plus 200. I mean,
sense.
it literally, just from a mathematical standpoint, you're much more likely to win the World Series because there's only X amount of opponents, right? It's like, but this guy's at plus 200 to win MVP, and I still think that I'd want to bet on it because it really feels like the only way that he wouldn't do it is if he gets, abhorrently injured or somebody hits 62 home runs again, which, let's face it, probably is not going to happen. Obviously, I'm talking about Shohei Ohtani. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll say this. Your point about Ohtani being a plus 200, you think about some of the other, if you wanted to get in on any other action, you got Judge plus 400, Trout plus 6, Julio Rodriguez plus 800, Yordan Alvarez plus 1,400. Yeah. Vladdy plus 1,400, J-Ram plus 1,600. Now, the difference is Ohtani pitches. And the only reason why Judge won it last year is because he hit 62 home runs, the most home runs ever in the American League, and the most home runs clean. We don't need to get into that discussion, but that was the big narrative, is the home run number. If Judge had finished with 59 or 60, it might have been Ohtani's award, but you had to give it to him with 62. So that is the difference. Does Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, Julio Rodriguez, Vladdy, any of those players, I'm going to kick this one to you, Tyler. You can answer this one. Does somebody have to set a record in the American League or in baseball's history to get over Shohei Ohtani? If Ohtani is just doing Ohtani things again in 2023, do you have to set a record to win the AL MVP?
I really think you do at this point because, again, and this is unfortunate for all the players that have been in the right. Vladdy 2 seasons ago, Judge won it, but again, he had to set that record. I mean, when you're facing a anomaly of a player in Ohtani, when it comes to a race like this, it's just so hard to even fathom the idea of getting past him. I mean, you could even it's absurd that we're having this discussion when Mike Trout was that guy for the longest time, and now it's his teammate, right? But it's even that times 10. It's so amplified. I really don't see a world where Ohtani doesn't win it unless, again, he deals with serious ailments. I don't think he's going to have this complete drawback in play. I think that Ohtani's actually going to have a monster year because he knows that this is his walk year. And if he's going to be traded or not, I'm going to go as far as to say that we may see the best season of Shohei Ohtani yet, arguably, war-wise. So, yeah, I think it's going to be really, really hard to top that, to say the least.
I agree with you. I'm with you on that 100%. I think this is going to be an unbelievable Shohei Ohtani
Because that
He's-
offense is deeper now too. Even if he's traded, at least that first half, as long as they can stay relatively healthy, that's the best lineup that he's going to actually be batting in that he's had so far in his career there in Anaheim. So that's another thing to keep in consideration. Like, there's actually some type of protection around him. Nothing crazy, but Hunter Renfroe, Brandon Drury, these guys are no slouches. They'll definitely hit the ball out of the park. So just further reasoning as to why I think Ohtani is destined for greatness again this year.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think it is Ohtani's award, and I think in 20 years, well, we go for 50 years, it'll be the Shohei Ohtani Award. It'll be the Shohei Ohtani AL MVP Award. Let's talk about NL MVP. Let's jump to the other side of the spectrum, because as Shohei Ohtani was the overwhelming favorite at plus 200, it's a little bit more jumbled in the NL MVP department. You got Soto at plus 600, so he's your favorite. Mookie Betts is plus 800, but then it gets really tight. You got Goldschmidt at plus 200, Machado at 1,200, Acuna 1,400, Alonso, Freeman, Austin Riley, Trey Turner, all plus 400, Nolan Arenado plus 1,800, and very interestingly, ahead of everybody I just named, except for Soto and Betts, sits Fernando Tatis Jr., who is going to miss like the first month of the season. Fernando Tatis Jr. at plus 1,200. What do we think about? I'll go to guys. Nick and Adam. I'll go to you first. What do we think about Tatis Jr. having those same odds as Machado and Goldie and Alonso, and better odds than Acuna and Freeman, when we know he's going to miss the first month of the season, basically?
I think that he was on the cover of the show, and a lot of people like to bet on the cover of the show because they know his face, and that's that reason. So I will not be taking that. I would much rather have a player who is going to start when the season starts and is going to be with their team, going to be with a team that actually likes them, because, but potentially there is some drama with Tatis in that locker room that could be causing problems. Like, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole, guys. I love Tatis. I think he's a great player, but obviously he's got some stuff that he's got to figure out, and I need to see it now after an entire season of not seeing it before I even come close to putting a cent down on Fernando Tatis Jr. at the third best MVP odds. No, thank you.
You've got, I'm going to kick it to you, Tyler, in 2 seconds. You've got Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Manny Machado. 3 Padres in the top 5 when we're talking about NL MVP odds. How is that even going to happen? Tyler, your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a Padre. I'll start there.
Yeah.
Soto is my personal favorite entering the year. I know that last year he wasn't fantastic, great OBP still, but I really think that he's going to be looking a lot more adjusted and having a full camp with San Diego. And, contrary to the belief from you guys, I don't think that picking Tatis is as big of a hot take, only for a couple reasons. One, he's only out for the first 20 games. Okay, so you're looking at if he can stay healthy from there on. Roughly, you're looking at him playing upwards of 140 games. Probably, I'd imagine more so in that 125, 130 range, because is he going to be able to play every day from as soon as he's out there, done with his suspension? I'm really not sure. So you have to look at how is he going to be able to adjust since not taking some MLB level ABs in a couple years. But I mean, just looking at his small sample size from 2021 was just absolutely absurd. And that was post juiced ball era. So it's not like you could say, oh, this is 2019. He had things going his way offensively. Like, no. I mean, what he did in 2021 and a overall down offensive year was absolutely ridiculous when the guy had an ailment all year long. He had to completely adjust his swing and grip the bat differently. So I think a healthy Tatis, I really do think he has potential to be up there. Do I love the idea of betting like all in on him? No, but would I absolutely consider at least throwing 10, 20 bucks on him? 100%. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Tatis because of all the drama, but man, oh man, I mean, that he is so much better than I think a lot of people are already starting to forget somehow, just because he hasn't played since 2021. Like, he's amazing. He really is.
Exactly. I think that's part of it. You've got the general population has forgot about how good he was, and there are probably those that are going to want to discount what he could do moving forward because of the steroid that he was taking for whatever was going on. They're going to want to discount and say, well, let's see how he does when he's clean. I think he's going to give you the same numbers. I will say this. It is interesting that you've got 3 Padres at the top. You've got 2 Dodgers towards the top. You've got 2 Atlanta Braves towards the top. You've got a couple of Cardinals in Arenado and Goldschmidt. Now, that didn't matter because, still was Goldie's award, even though Arenado was killing it. So having a teammate or 2 in the running doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose a vote, but it doesn't help you. I will say this is interesting, and I'm going to give some love to your boy. It's a long shot, but Pete Alonso is the only Met towards the top of this discussion, which tells me that the rest of the lineup is being slept on, even though I think it's a very capable, effective lineup. If he goes out there and absolutely crushes it, I don't know. If he's the only Met in the conversation and he's leading the team and they're winning 100+ games, I can't rule out that Pete Alonso is going to get some serious MVP love this year. I almost would want him not to get an extension signed so that he's got more fuel, more of a fire burning to get the maximum dollar done. If he gets that contract done, that extension done now, he's going to be relaxed. He's going to be chilling. He's going to be
a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, we don't want that. We want a fired up polar bear that really wants to max out this season.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, like, I'm sure you could speak on this much further, but that was my pick, man. Like again, like if the Mets are winning 100+ games and they're gonna be, and the story's already starting to be written towards Mets being good, if they do it, Alonso will be out in front for sure.
He'll be the leader.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was a little upset to see Alonso didn't get that much love for MVP or Lindor last year, because Lindor, war-wise, was a phenomenal player.
He really was.
Elite defensively, offensively, looked really good. First 100 RBI season. I understood more so with Lindor, however, why he didn't get it. And for Alonso, his biggest hurdle, more than anything, is just the fact that he doesn't have the defensive upside that you're going to get with like a Paul Goldschmidt, for example. He's not this capable Gold Glover year in, year out the position. And even though he's in the least taxing position as is defensively, the fact that he hasn't been above average, like as consistently his career as other guys, is really what I think what's going to hold him back the most. I think if Alonso was at a different position, say if he just played average second base and obviously put up even third base, for example, and if he was putting up those numbers, it's a completely different discussion. But I think he's just unfortunately in a spot where playing first base /DH some games is not going to favor him with this race for quite some time, unless he goes out this year and somehow becomes this Gold Glove defender, who I don't expect to be. But he definitely has made strides in his defensive game the past couple of years, because he was not pretty out the gate. He's looked a lot better since then. So
I'm fascinated by this National League Rookie of the Year, because, and even to an extent, the American League Rookie of the Year, but there is a pitcher that has a ton of pro experience, not here in the States, but a ton of experience in professional baseball, and is sort of sandwiched right in that NL Rookie of the Year conversation. But we just saw last year a pitcher dominate, but lose out to a position player. So my question, I'm going to kick it back to Wardy. Can Kodai Senga win the National League Rookie of the Year if he's great? If Corbin Carroll or Jordan Walker or Ezekiel Tovar or teammate Francisco Alvarez, if they're great, do you think Kodai Senga could win a Rookie of the Year if a position player is also playing great baseball?
It's funny because going into this stream, I completely forgot that he's technically a rookie, right? So that is a fair point. I definitely think when evaluating it that way, he definitely has a chance. The protection, the Mets rotation will obviously help him a lot. It's not like he's thrown out there to be the ace. He's thrown out there to be the number 3, number 4 from the jump. And he is not going to be playing for a World Baseball Classic with Tokyo. He's going to be going straight to spring for the Mets, purposely to get adjusted and acclimated to the Mets organization as soon as possible, which I like. So, yeah, I definitely think that Kodai can be a sleeper for the NL if some things go awry with some position players. Personally, aside from being biased and picking that Kodai pick, even though I really do like that as a fit, Corbin Carroll leads the way for me. I just think his athleticism, there's so much there. I think that Diamondbacks team is actually going to be solid this year. I think they'll loom around 500 like they did last year. And Carroll just has those qualities that remind me a little bit of Michael Harris. That's where he's just really electric with his defense, with his speed, and just a matter of like how much more power can he get in that bat. And if he just shows a little bit more strides and progress on that front throughout the year with the D-backs offense, that, we'll see how it looks overall. But yeah, aside from like a guy like Carroll, Kodai's a really interesting name, and I'm glad you brought him up because, like I said, wasn't thinking about him entering the show tonight. So
do you have any idea, Wardy, like how many innings you think he's gonna eat up? Because I feel like the biggest problem with these Rookie of the Year things, when like it most of the time ends up going over to position players, because a lot of the times like these rookie pitchers, like they're going to max out at like 120 innings or something like that. Like I remember like a few years ago when it was Trevor Rogers, and Trevor Rogers was having like this, transcendent rookie season. I was like, well, he has to win Rookie of the Year. But at the end of the day, he only had like 130 innings or something like that. And because of that, he was kind of held back, and oh no, we're going to give it to India. So do you think that he even eats up enough innings to get him into that conversation for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good point about Rodgers, because I remember that in the second half that year, because he was an all-star that year. The second half, though, dealt with a lot of ailments, and his numbers really started to spike a bit. So he hasn't been the same pitcher since either, which is an interesting name. But yeah, I do think Senga will eat the proper innings for it. I'd imagine that he will likely get in that 160 range this year. Obviously, if he can do more than that, then awesome. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Mets go about load management with him. Because he's coming from the MPB where he was pitching instead of every fourth, fifth day. It was a little bit longer than that. So this is another thing that he's going to have to deal with the transition. How's his body going to react to it? And also, are the Mets at all going to consider a six-man rotation is another thing. When you have Verlander and Scherzer at the top of your rotation, there's a lot of reasons to believe why a six-man could be feasible, even if it's not for the whole year, maybe a quarter of the year, half the season, just to try to keep those guys as fresh as possible for down the stretch when you need them most. So if that happens as well, that's another thing to look at as like, okay, maybe Senga will be dialing back more innings because they're going to be stretching out their rotation to 6 instead of 5. So yeah, that's a good point.
The innings will be interesting because he still should not have the same limitations that, say, Grayson Rodriguez with the Orioles will have, or any of the other traditional rookies that come up. Ricky Tiedemann with the Blue Jays. There's a chance that Tiedemann comes up, starts 5 to 10 games, and then they move him to the bullpen because of however many innings he pitched in the minors and how they're tracking him. Senga should have a little bit of an advantage over any of the other pitchers because he has dealt with more of a load than the typical prospects that are coming up. I do agree though with the Corbin Carroll comment. He is Fangraphs Steamer projection has him at a 2020 guy, homers and stolen bases for their projection, and hitting towards the top of the lineup. There's some good bats behind him. So he's definitely the favorite. It is interesting, though, some of these bats that are going to come up, there are going to be players, unless they can break camp, we're going to see some incredible talent with Jordan Walker and Ellie De La Cruz, Miguel Vargas, any of those Mets bats, if they can get enough playing time with Alvarez and Beatty. Yeah. It's going to be this year for rookies. I'm excited. I mean, and even over in the American League, I don't feel like it's as deep as it is in the National League, but it's going to be exciting to say the least. Gunner's going to be fun.
Gunner.
Yeah. Yep. The entire Orioles team is going to be great. Which
they're going to be so much fun
now? Who's going to break out? It's going to be exciting.
They actually make it like I'm determined to actually watch a portion of Orioles games this year, just because it's always fun when you see, like, that's how it was with Toronto for a bit too, like when Vladdy and everyone were first coming up, like when you have like a core group, basically a talent, a prospect pool, all kind of coming up around the same time, and you like Orioles I think are going to be a fringe playoff team this year for sure, if not make playoffs. So with the expanded format, yeah, they're going to be a fun team to watch. I know that you guys probably don't love them as much because they're like somewhat of a rival being in the same division as you, but I mean, as an outsider, definitely going to be fun.
Yeah, like it's fun. The first year is going to be fun for sure. But then once
Yeah.
they become good and challenging us, then we're gonna hate them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They are on the road right now to becoming a serious problem. Like you look at their future. I was looking at the updated top 100 prospect rankings, and I mean, like these guys have, I think, 8 in the top 100, and something like 3 of those 8 are in the top 12 or so. I mean, take that as you will, right? It's just a list, but the point of it being, they have so much young talent that is highly touted coming up very, very soon. Like we better win the freaking World Series now, boys, because it's going to become really difficult starting in a few years.
So let's talk about that, shall we? Like Gunnar Henderson leading the charge in the AL Rookie of the Year odds at plus 350. I mean, when you look at these other, Jim, you pointed out, when you look at these other prospects, like they're good, but there's really no one kind of compared to the Orioles system right now. What do you guys think about Gunnar Henderson and in the entire AL East Rookie of the Year awards?
I think that it is going to be Gunnar's. It's going to be Gunnar's to win. He got some good experience last year with the club. He plays more of a premium position than somebody like Tristan Casas, who could be competing for that award. Casas, chained to first base probably this year, or maybe even first base and DHing to make sure they can keep his bat in the lineup. So Gunnar playing more either they can move him around to the middle infield spots. He can play third. They can move him around. I think that'll be a big sort of feather in his cap to take that award. Josh Jung, I'm very interested in Josh Jung. I will say this: I looked at the Masataka Yoshida, and that's an interesting one. When you look at,
I forgot about him too. Damn.
Yeah,
when you brought him up.
When I looked at Masataka Yoshida is plus 1,000 and Gunnar Henderson is plus 350. The only reason Yoshida is down that far is you wonder what the transition is going to be, because we saw last year with Seiya Suzuki. We saw him; it was monster numbers overseas, and then he came over and he had a rocky up and down transition year. We saw with Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim looks like he's coming around. Had a tough transition year. Is Yoshida going to do the same thing? Fangraphs steamer projections is going completely upstream against any potential transition year. They've got a very solid projection for him to the point where something. Yeah, they must be, because if he hits on those projections, then Yoshida's going to be your AL Rookie of the Year. But I think Gunnar has to be the favorite because of the sort of the blue ribbon pedigree he comes up with, being the top prospect in all of baseball, and throw in the fact that he was up with the Orioles for the last month last season. So I'm leaning towards Henderson. Grayson Rodriguez again. Grayson Rodriguez being plus 800 makes no sense to me. Grayson Rodriguez might not come up until July, and even still be on an innings limit. Tyler, what's your read? What's your feel on any of the AL Rookie of the Year?
Gunnar again feels like favorite. Masataka is a great point. I feel the same way I think about him as I do with Sango, where like the potential is certainly there for them. Just got to see how they adjust. I think we'll get a good idea through the first month and a half this season to really know what we're going to get. But there's one name out there that no one, I feel like, is talking about. I have a personal bias with him only because I'm can't emphasize this enough. I'm a very casual White Sox fan for the AL.
I know where you're going, and I love it.
And I've felt that, and I've been following them because I wanted to get into more of the AL when I was younger. So when Yoan Moncada got dealt there, Lucas Giolito, that is where I really started to hone in and watch them more. And one prospect 2 years ago when I first started my channel, one of the first videos I did was on Oscar Luis Colas. And he's expected to be starting in right field for the White Sox this year. He was originally deemed as the next Shohei Ohtani because the guy could pitch and he could hit. I did really well overseas in the MPB, I believe, or Korean League, whichever league he was in. And last year did really, really well, going from, I think it was still single A all the way to triple A or double to triple. A lot of power behind his swing. I think he's going to thrive with, fellow guys of Deer descent or just in that same realm as a Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez. I think that's a good core group for them. So yeah, Colas, he's expected to get a good amount of playing time and just a name to keep an eye out. I think he's going to kind of be like an Adolis Garcia type this year. He's going to really wow some people with his power and get his name out there a little bit. Really like him. I'm
with you on that 100%. I love Oscar Colas, and his odds are down too. If you're If you're a gambling man, he's at plus 1,500. And when we look at this, I mean, if Oscar, it's really just going to be about the playing time. Does he break camp with the White Sox? Do they hold him back a month? Does he start in the minors and maybe struggle? So they delay the. Whenever he's up, he's going to be a big time player. I'm all in on Oscar Colas with you. I think that's going to be. He's one of the next players that's going to take the league by storm, and having professional experience. Again, it's not Major League Baseball, but it was pro experience in another league. I think should help to some degree.
So,
I'm with you on that one.
I got a question coming in here, guys, and I feel like this is a pretty good one to wrap things up here.
All right.
And I think it's actually only fitting that that both Adam and I and both Wardy shut the hell up with this one and let a third-party, unbiased opinion answer this.
Oh, no.
Baseball for Life comes in here and says, "Do you think the Mets are better than the Blue Jays?"
Ooh.
And I really think it's only fair that we let Jim come in here and
I can't answer that.
And tell us what's what, man.
Pick a side,
Pick
Jim.
a side, Jim. You got the some big Blue Jays and Mets YouTubers on right now. Pick a side. Show us who you're going with, Mets or Jays, this coming year. I'm taking notes.
Okay. Are you taking notes? Are you keeping receipts? Are you keeping receipts as well?
Yeah, all of them.
I'll say this before I say this. I have to encourage everybody, if they have not yet, to subscribe to all three channels involved here: mine, Blue Jays Today, and WardyNYM, and smash that like if you haven't. If you're in my channel and you've hit the like, thank you. Make sure you go visit the other stops along the way and give the video a like as well. I know we're not live on Tyler's right now, but just go hit the like on his most recent video. I know you did the podcast tonight. So I will say this. I think it's really not that difficult if we're going based on what we saw last year. It's the New York Mets are better than the Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay, Jim, I see how it is.
New York Mets won 101 games last year. The Toronto Blue Jays constantly felt like they were in a start and stop mode. And if that continues this year, it shouldn't, right? We bring Don Mattingly in, you get out Lourdes Gurriel and Teoscar Hernandez, you bring in Dalton Varsho, Brandon Belt, Kevin Kiermaier. That should change things. But all I can go on is what I have seen and what I saw last year. The Mets are the better team. We will see how it plays out this year. How are the Mets? Listen, DeGrom out, but DeGrom started 10 games during the regular season last year. You bring Verlander in, and Verlander's health is an upgrade. Even though DeGrom, maybe if you go head-to-head, you want DeGrom in that setting. But Verlander has already made the transitions. Verlander knows how to pitch in a 40-year-old body or about a 40-year-old body. So, listen, at the end of the day, I will have to lean Mets. Blue Jays are there, but the Blue Jays got to show it on the field. That's my take on that.
Well, I mean, you know what? I like the logic, dude. It does make the sense. It hurts the heart, but I think it just means that come whenever it is, I got to check the schedule, but whenever Blue Jays play the Mets, we obviously got to reconvene here and do a little bit of a pre-show, talk about where the teams are at, and then who knows? Maybe because if it's a month into the season or something, maybe your opinion changes. Just
definitely. Oh, yeah, that is something that is fluid. That is where it stands right now, and I'm basing the decisions on what these teams were last year and where they are moving forward. I don't know if we think the Blue Jays got better with their additions, but you're seeing Gurriel go out. You're seeing Teoscar Hernandez go out. You saw the flaws that were exposed last year. Hopefully they have been addressed. We don't know for sure. The New York Mets, with what they were last year and their offseason, yeah, they lost a lot, but they brought a lot in to replace it. So I got to feel like the Mets are going to at least be the same team they were last year. And if the Blue Jays are the same team they were last year, even maybe a smidge better, still lean towards the Mets for now. I would love for that to change, though. I really would love for that to change.
Here, one final remark I have on this is I really don't think it matters. You know, if there's one thing that last season taught me as a Mets fan who got to see a 100-win season, like as a diehard fan for the first time, doesn't mean jack shit. Pardon my friend. Okay.
Sure.
All that matters is that you're hot at the right time. So whether you're winning first in the division or you're the last place in the wild card, just make sure that you're playing your best baseball when it matters most. And I think Blue Jays fans can attest to that after not seeing him win in a while. Us Mets fans got kicked out way sooner than we were initially expecting after having the type of progress that we had for the majority of the year. So at the end of the day, whoever comes out with the more wins, that's all cool and all, but it's really about who gets deeper in playoffs. So that's
facts.
That's all I focus
facts,
on
Tyler.
right now. I mean, I feel, again, now I have an expectation. So like if they don't win the division, that ain't going to bother me nearly as much as long as they have a deep run. And Blue Jays fans, you guys can feel the same way. If the Yanks win, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that you at least have a respectable run where you win at minimum your first round. Just show some progress than what you've done the years prior. Give fans reasons to be, more pumped up and optimistic about the direction you're going in.
I agree.
If you can't get one of those 2 buys, right? If you can't get out of the first round, you gotta roll into the postseason hot, because if you're rolling in hoping that what you did during the regular all 162 is going to get you through, it's not. It's going to be who's hot, who's locked in more, who's seeing the ball better, all of that. That's what I think we saw last year in the postseason. That's why one of my new mantras is to play as few games as possible to get to the World Series, because the more games you play, the more up the creek you could be, because that means you're in the first round. That means you're going to play more teams. That means you could run up against a buzzsaw, and it doesn't matter if you won 100 games, you're out. So I'm all about either getting that bye or just going in hot.
Agreed. All right.
Well, this has been fun, and I do appreciate everybody that hit the like. Listen, guys, it is tried and true. When we do a little bit of a like spike, when I ask you guys to hit the likes, I usually see the view count go up about 10 to 20 viewers within a minute or two. So I do appreciate everybody that hit the like and everybody that has subscribed. If you have not hit the like yet, be sure to hit the like. If you have not subscribed to all 3 of our channels, be sure to do so, because I think we got a good thing going, all 3 of us here on YouTube. Parting words. Tyler, you go first.
Nothing. Just great discussion. Hopefully we can do it again soon. Because again, I'm very limited on like what I do on my own channel. Just because I'm so Mets focused. So anytime I get a chance to talk out of that, just baseball in general, sign me the hell up. I'll gladly do it. So appreciate you having me on, Jim. The boys at Blue Jays today continue killing it as well. Always happy to talk to you guys. And yeah, that's about it. Excited. Spring training's right around the corner. So let's get this year rolling.
Nick and Adam?
Yeah, man, ditto that. Like, I'm so excited for the spring training, man. Like, it feels like I've been cooped up for so long. We've been pushing so much off-season content, but let's talk about the actual reality and what's happening on the field. So, guys, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, because we're going to be uploading lots of content. These boys are going to be uploading lots of content, so be sure to check it out.
Definitely. And everybody, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for coming in. Remember, we will be back next Tuesday evening doing another live stream, another edition of That Damn Baseball Show. Thank you all for coming in. BALLCAP Nation, I salute you. Thank you for supporting our stream tonight, and we will catch you next time.